Welcome to the deep dive. Usually when we talk about improving ourselves, there's this underlying expectation of renovation.
Yeah, totally. Like fixing up an old house or something.
Right. You feel stressed out, you realize you have some emotional baggage, and so you actively seek out a wellness practice to, repair the damage. You meditate to fix your anxiety, or maybe you try some form of energy work to fix your exhaustion. The entire goal is to basically take yourself and make it better, happier, and, more balanced.
Exactly. I mean, it is an incredibly practical, logical approach. We all just want to be a more functional, peaceful version of ourselves, navigating what is a very chaotic world.
But today, we have this fascinating stack of sources that takes that entire renovation project and just brings it to a screeching halt.
It really does.
Yeah, we are diving into the ancient radical world of Advaita Vedanta, which is the non-dual wisdom of the Sanatana Dharma. And this source material asks a deeply uncomfortable question, like, what if improving yourself is actually the ultimate trap?
Oh, it's a total paradigm shift.
Right. What if the goal isn't to fix the self at all, but to ruthlessly investigate what that self actually is?
Yeah, in this deep dive, we're going to look at some incredibly popular modern wellness trends. So specifically things like pranic healing and transcendental meditation, or TM.
Right. They're everywhere.
Exactly. But we are going to examine them through the lens of Adi Shankaracharya's ancient teachings on Advaita Vedanta. We're going to break down exactly why these modern therapeutic methods work on a mechanical level, where they hit a hard ceiling, and how true liberation, which the text called moksha, requires completely dismantling the illusion of the self.
Now, just to set the ground rules for our deep dive today, we are strictly exploring the philosophical arguments presented in our source material.
Yeah, we're not taking sides.
Exactly. We aren't here to endorse one specific spiritual path or declare, what the objective truth of the universe is. Our goal is simply to be your guides, unpacking these ancient ideas and seeing how they challenge our modern assumptions. So let's start with why these practices are so incredibly popular right now. Because things like pranic healing, popularized by Chokoksui or TM, brought to the West by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, are basically mainstream now.
Oh, absolutely.
Pranic healing claims that the body has an invisible energy field, an aura, and that a healer can clean and energize this field without even touching you to cure imbalances.
Well, what's fascinating here is that from a strictly scientific, peer-reviewed standpoint, there is no solid evidence for manipulating a mystical aura to cure disease.
Right. You can't really put it in a beaker.
Exactly. We don't have instruments that measure prana or life energy in that literal way. But dismissing these practices entirely because of that would be a massive mistake.
Why is that?
Because millions of people genuinely experience deep calmness, emotional release, and, increased self-awareness from them. The real value isn't necessarily in the metaphysical claims of invisible energy transfer. The value is found in the mechanics of what the practice is actually doing to the practitioner's nervous system and their attention.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if I go to an energy healer and I leave feeling like, a massive weight has been lifted off my chest, something real just happened.
Yes, absolutely.
If it's not invisible energy, what is actually happening in the body and mind?
So if you strip away the metaphysical language, you find these incredibly effective biological and psychological mechanisms at play. First, you have the training of attention.
Okay.
When a practitioner guides your focus to specific parts of your body, it acts as an anchor. It pulls you out of those chaotic, looping narratives in your prefrontal cortex.
That makes sense.
Right. And second, these practices almost always involve regulating the breath. When you slow your breathing down, you stimulate the vagus nerve, which tells your parasympathetic nervous system to take over.
Oh, so it physically calms you down.
Literally. It shuts down the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Your heart rate drops, your cortisol levels fall. And finally, the ritual structure itself, lying down, listening to soothing instructions, feeling cared for it, gives a highly disturbed, anxious mind a profound sense of safety and control.
So to use an analogy, it's basically like organizing an incredibly messy desk.
Boy, I like that.
You haven't actually changed the fundamental work you have to do. The bills are still there, the emails still need replies, but you've stopped the visual chaos. you've stacked the papers, you put the pens in a little cup, and now your brain isn't screaming in panic. You can finally sit down and focus without feeling overwhelmed by the sheer mess of it all.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
I mean, modern humans are incredibly scattered. We're dealing with constant digital stimulation, chronic anxiety, intense social pressures. Practices like pranic healing and TM force you to simply pause the chaos.
Yeah.
They force you to become sensitive to your inner states, which is a process called interoception. You shift your focus from trying to fix the external world to asking, what am I feeling internally right now? Where am I holding tension?
And that's super helpful.
It is. I cannot stress enough how structurally vital that is. A disturbed, highly agitated mind cannot do real philosophical self-inquiry. So using these therapeutic tools to calm the nervous system is a necessary level 1 or level 2 preparation.
Okay.
It creates that stable, quiet ground where deeper spiritual inquiry actually becomes possible.
Right. And if I'm listening to this right now and I've spent the last, 3 years diligently going to meditation retreats to fix my energy, I'm probably nodding along. Organizing the desk feels great.
Of course it does.
But if it makes you feel calmer, if it makes you less reactive with your family, where is the danger? Like if it works so well as a level 1 preparation, what is the trap?
Well, the danger is what the sources identify as the spiritual middle layer. This is where the trap just snaps shut.
The spiritual middle layer.
Yeah. People take these incredibly helpful therapeutic tools and instead of using them as a stepping stone, they turn them into rigid belief systems.
Oh, I see.
They develop a dependency on the healers, like needing a session every time they feel slightly off, or they use the blissful, quiet states achieved in meditation as an escape from doing real existential work.
Yeah.
They avoid looking at their underlying psychological conflicts by just retreating to their meditation cushion.
Right. So instead of using the organized desk to actually sit down and tackle the hard work, they just sit there admiring how clean the desk is.
Yes.
And making that their entire personality.
Exactly. And that leads to the inflation of the spiritual ego. Used blindly, these methods don't dismantle your ego, they just give it an upgrade.
Oh, wow. An upgraded ego.
Yeah. People adopt shiny new identities. They start saying, I am a healer, or I am a dedicated meditator, or I vibrate at a higher frequency. The ego hasn't disappeared at all. It has just put on a new, very convincing set of spiritual clothes.
But wait, let me push back on that a bit. Isn't a calm spiritual ego objectively better than an angry, stressed out, destructive ego? Like if I have to choose between sharing a house with someone who is rigidly identified as a peaceful healer versus someone rigidly identified as a highly reactive, angry person, I'll take the healer every time.
Oh, on a practical societal level, absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to be around the calm person.
Right.
But on a level of ultimate truth and liberation, which is what Advaita Vedanta is concerned with, a subtle ego that proudly says, I am so spiritually advanced that I have no ego, is actually vastly more dangerous.
Really? Why?
Because it's so much harder to dismantle. It feels good. It looks righteous to the outside world. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the wisdom of Adi Shankaracharya states that the root problem of human suffering is not an energy imbalance.
Okay.
The root problem isn't even the ego itself. The ego, whether it's an angry ego or a spiritual ego, is just a symptom.
So if the ego is just a symptom, what is the actual disease?
The real culprit in these texts is called avidya.
Avidya.
Yes, which translates to ignorance. Specifically, ignorance of the self. It's the fundamental misunderstanding of who and what you truly are. If you only fight the ego, or try to polish the ego into a better, calmer version of itself through energy work, you are completely missing the root illness.
Okay, we need to clarify this for the listener because ignorance sounds like an insult, right? Like a lack of book smarts. How does the philosophical misunderstanding ignorance of the self cause actual physical suffering and stress?
Well, let's use a classic analogy from the texts.
Yeah.
Imagine you walk into a dark room, and in the corner, you see a snake coiled on the floor.
Terrifying.
Instantly, your heart rate spikes. You start sweating. Your body goes into full panic mode. The physical symptoms, the stress, the fear, the adrenaline are 100% real. You are genuinely suffering.
Mm-hmm.
But then someone turns on the light, and you see that it isn't a snake at all. It's just a coiled piece of rope.
Okay, so the suffering was real, but the cause of the suffering was an illusion. It was based entirely on a misunderstanding of reality.
Precisely. That misunderstanding is avidya. You didn't need to fight the snake. You didn't need to do energy work to calm your fear of the snake. You just needed to turn on the light and realize the snake never existed.
Wow.
Yeah, Advaita Vedanta says that our entire identity, Our belief that we are these isolated, stressed-out bodies and minds is exactly like mistaking the rope for a snake.
That brings us right to the core of Advaita Vedanta, and we should probably define some of these terms clearly. We mentioned the Sanatana Dharma earlier, which is the broader ancient Indian philosophical and spiritual tradition.
Right.
But within that, Advaita Vedanta has a very specific goal. The sources say the goal isn't just healing, the goal is realizing the ultimate nature of the self, which is called the Atman, and realizing that it is identical to Brahman, the ultimate reality.
Yes.
How do we explain that mechanically to someone hearing this for the first time?
The simplest way to grasp the relationship between Atman and Brahman is the ocean and the wave. The Atman is the individual wave. It looks like it has its own shape, its own boundary, its own temporary existence. Brahman is the entire ocean, the fundamental reality of water. Advaita, which literally means not two or non-dual, is the wave realizing, wait, I am not a separate shape crashing toward the shore. I am made of the exact same water as the entire ocean. They're not two different things.
That makes perfect sense. And it sets up this brilliant metaphor from the sources to explain the difference between wellness trends and non-duality. They say that methods like prana healing and TM are like cleaning the mirror. You know, you're wiping away the dust, the stress, and the anxiety from the glass so that the reflection looks nicer and clearer. But Advaita is the radical step of realizing you are not the reflection.
That is the defining shift. Advaita questions the very basis of experience itself. It operates on the philosophical assumption that all phenomena, everything you can perceive, feel, or experience, is ultimately mithya, which means an appearance or illusion.
So it's not real.
Well, it's real in the moment you experience it, but it isn't the ultimate unchanging truth. So if you look through the strict lens of Advaita, concepts like prana, auras, chakras, and even the mind itself are all just part of the illusory field. They're part of Maya.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like you are having a nightmare that your living room is a complete disaster. Practices like pranic healing teach you how to perfectly arrange the furniture inside the dream.
Exactly.
You move the couch, you fix the lighting, you do some deep breathing, and suddenly the dream is a very pleasant, balanced dream. But Advaita Vedanta comes along and says, why are you spending all this effort arranging the furniture? Just wake up from the dream entirely.
Yes. Advaita would literally say you are trying to improve the dream character instead of waking up as the dreamer. And this establishes a hard boundary in the text. There's a fundamental limit to wellness practices.
Which is what?
No practice that works on the body, that works on the energy, or that works on altering mind states can ever destroy ignorance. Because ignorance doesn't live in the body or the mind. Ignorance lives in misidentification. You are identifying with the dream character. You cannot equate a therapeutic preparation with existential truth.
Okay, wait, I have to play proxy for the skeptical listener here.
Do it.
If someone's chronic anxiety or like deep-lived trauma is functionally cured by a pranic healer or by 10 years of TM, calling their experience an illusion or a dream feels incredibly dismissive. How did these texts justify invalidating someone's literal lived experience?
That is a crucial pushback, and the texts are actually very careful about this. Advaita doesn't say your pain isn't real to you. The sweat from seeing the snake is real. The trauma of the dream is felt.
Right, your heart is still racing.
Exactly. It doesn't invalidate the experience. It questions the nature of the experiencer. It asks you to investigate who is actually suffering. But you are absolutely right. You can't just walk up to a dedicated meditator and tell them their life's work is an illusion. They will immediately reject you, and rightfully so, because you're attacking their anchor.
So how do you cross this bridge? Like if I am a practitioner or if I'm trying to move my own mind from just managing stress to actually understanding reality, how do I move from the method to the truth without breaking my own psychological stability?
The sources provide a highly precise psychological transition model for this exact problem. It's a 4-stage bridge designed to move someone from unconscious practice to conscious observation over several weeks.
Oh, wow. Okay, walk us through these 4 stages. How do we actually build this bridge?
So stage 1 is respect. You must respect the current ground.
Makes sense.
If you are practicing TM, you don't suddenly attack it and say, this is false. Instead, you validate what the practice is actually giving you. You acknowledge the calm. You acknowledge that your previously disturbed mind has been stabilized. This is vital, because you cannot rip away the crutch before the leg is healed. Respecting the practice builds the trust necessary to move forward.
Right, so you're acknowledging that the desk is indeed cleaner and that it feels much better to work at a clean desk.
Exactly. Once that stability is there, usually after a couple of weeks, you move to stage 2, shifting from belief to observation.
What does that look like?
You gently introduce cracks in the identification. When you feel that healing energy or that deep meditative state, you ask yourself, how do I know this is happening? You start to notice that the peace is a sensation. It's a perception. It's an object that is being experienced by you.
Okay, I see how that creates a bit of distance. Even if the energy or the calmness is very real, it's still an object. It's something I am looking at.
Precisely. Which leads to the turning point, stage 3, turning toward the experiencer.
Okay, so flipping it around.
Yeah. Instead of focusing entirely on the healing energy or the improved state of mind, you pivot your attention 180 degrees. You ask, who is the one experiencing all this? You point out a fundamental mechanical fact. The energy changes. The mind changes. The states of calmness come and go.
But something stays the same.
Exactly. The knower of the change remains constant. The awareness that notices the profound calmness today is the exact same awareness that noticed the intense anxiety yesterday.
The brilliance of this approach is that you aren't demanding they destroy their illusion. You aren't taking away their beloved meditation practice at all. You're just asking them to notice that an experience is happening and to look at who is watching it happen.
That is the core of it. And by weeks 5 and 6, you reach stage 4, true inquiry. This brings in the pure essence of Adi Shankaracharya.
Here we go.
The realization that you are not what you experience, you are that which knows it. You introduce sharp, direct inquiries. Am I the body, or do I know the body? Am I these thoughts, or do I observe these thoughts?
That's a massive shift.
It really is. The psychological shift here is huge. You move from the renovation project of, I practice to improve myself, to the investigative project of, I am investigating what this self actually is. Over time, the heavy reliance on the breathing techniques or the aura manipulation naturally falls away. Not by force, but simply by a lack of necessity.
Because once you know it's a rope, you don't need to keep doing breathing exercises to calm down about the snake.
Exactly.
But, and this is where the sources throw a massive curveball. There's one final trap at the end of this bridge. So the ultimate trap is actually disguised as the ultimate enlightenment.
Oh, is the most subtle trap of all. It's called witness consciousness.
Witness consciousness, yeah.
Through this intense inquiry, you successfully realize you are not your thoughts, you're not your emotions, you're not your body. You stabilize entirely as the observer. You feel calm, detached, and perfectly aware. But right there, a highly refined, microscopic ego hides.
Sneaky.
Very. It proudly says, I am the witness. I am the observer of all things. You're still operating in duality. There's the world being watched, and there is you, the watcher.
It's like you've successfully realized you aren't a character in the movie on the screen, but now you're strongly identifying as the guy sitting in the movie theater watching the screen.
Yes.
You still have an identity. You still have a location.
Exactly. So Advaita delivers the final blow to collapse this duality. To break the final illusion, you must ask one last devastating question. This witness, is it also known?
Wait, if I'm the observer, am I aware of the observer?
Yes. If you know that you are the witness, then the witness is also just an object in your awareness. It's a concept. And when that is deeply seen, the witness identity collapses. It turns out there's no guy sitting in the theater either.
Mind-blowing.
There is no answer left, no position to take, no identity to claim. What remains is just pure being, pure awareness without an awarer.
Yeah.
Non-dual truth, the end of the seeker entirely.
Wow. Let's summarize the journey we've just been on because we have covered a massive amount of philosophical ground today. We started by validating the very real, practical, biological benefits of wellness trends like energy healing and meditation.
Right.
They calm the vagus nerve, they train attention, and they're phenomenal at organizing our mental desks. But then we exposed the hidden traps of the spiritual middle layer where we just swap out our stressed out ego for a shiny new spiritual ego. And finally, we walked through the radical, uncompromising deconstruction of the self in Advaita Vedanta. We moved from trying to clean the reflection in the mirror to the realization that we aren't the reflection at all.
It is a profound journey from dependency on therapeutic methods to the ultimate freedom of direct recognition. And the beauty is, the goal of this philosophy is not to make you aggressively reject your meditation practice or your energy work. It's not about throwing the tools away.
Right.
The goal is simply to make you realize, whatever I experience, whatever state I achieve, cannot be what I fundamentally am.
And for you listening, the best part is that this isn't just ancient philosophy meant for monks living in caves in the Himalayas. This is live psychological deconstruction that you can try today, right in the middle of your commute or sitting at your desk.
Absolutely. Daily life is the perfect high-stakes laboratory for this. I want to leave you with a final penetrating practice, a micro practice you can do anywhere, anytime today.
Let's hear it.
Next time you feel stressed or angry, or even if you're feeling deeply, blissfully peaceful after a great meditation session, just pause for 5 seconds. Catch the identification in real time and ask yourself, who knows this moment?
But remember, the warning from the texts, don't answer it with words. Don't just say, I am consciousness or I am Brahman. That's just borrowed knowledge from a deep dive.
Right. No verbal answers. Just stay with the felt sense of being aware. Turn your attention back toward the knower. Ask, who knows this moment? And just see what happens to the stress or the anger or the spiritual pride. See what remains when the observer collapses.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the mechanics of your own mind, keep observing, and the next time you try to renovate and clean up your life, take a hard look in the mirror and ask yourself, who is really looking back? We'll catch you next time.